All right, I'm going to call the special and adjourned regular city council meeting of September 22nd, 2021 to order. Madam Clerk, will you take the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Councilmember Ferguson.
Here.
Councilmember Novak.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem James.
Here.
And Mayor Ward.
Present.
You have a couple speaker cards.
Okay,
And the first is Amanda Kitnia.
Hello. I'm very concerned regarding Mayor Pro Tem James' recent conduct regarding the release of closed session discussion. A recent article of the Voice of OC, San Clemente City Councilwoman sues city over access to public records. I'm wondering why the city council is not calling for the immediate censorship of Mayor Pro Tem James for his following statements. I've reviewed documentation from the investigation, and there were 6 attempts to have Ferguson be interviewed by the investigator in which she has refused to cooperate, James said in a Monday text message. His statements have to be closed session discussion, and when is the city going to censor him for disclosure of closed session discussion? Mayor Pro Tem James further adds, this lawsuit appears to be nothing more than a distraction to direct attention away from this investigation and her pattern of abusive behavior. Mayor Pro Tem James appears to have made some libelous statements, which surely could have legal consequences for possible defamation of character and or harassment. Not to mention, 2 days before this article came out, a member of the Chamber of Commerce, Glenn Walker, shared this information on social media, which happens to be, I guess, apparently a friend of Gene James. So there was definitely this supports that he released closed session discussion. This isn't the first time within the past couple of weeks where Mayor Pro Tem James has been in the media for his unprofessional and unethical behavior. His horrifically disrespectful treatment of Deputy Medina, his apparent abuse of power by using his Mayor Pro Tem status to call Captain Manhart is inexcusable. Most importantly, slamming on his brakes could have caused serious injury and harm to the deputy and drivers behind him. This is especially important since the deputy was on a motorcycle and injury can easily occur. Not to mention that Deputy Medina had his emergency lights and his forward-facing light on, and Mayor Pro Tem James even admitted to seeing the deputy, and therefore he had no reason to slam on his brakes besides a possible lack of regard for the value of human life. And as a registered nurse, I definitely have seen and worked with trauma surgeons regarding motor vehicle accidents. And his smug face right now is just appalling. And I want to let you know, I spent 30 years in the nursing field. You're so disrespectful. As a longtime resident, I'm calling for the immediate removal of Gene James' title as Mayor Pro Tem at the very least because of his unethical and unprofessional conduct to exploit his position. I'm also requesting the immediate censorship of Gene James for disclosing closed session discussion to the Voice of OC, San Clemente Times, to Glenn Walker, and to anybody else. Thank you.
The next speaker is Martina. Last name was not provided.
So good evening, Council. So I'm speaking on the closed session item, and that's the lawsuit involving Councilwoman Laura Ferguson for the release of public documents to the public. This isn't the first time that the public or Laura has been stonewalled by this council or management in getting public documents. And if we want to look at the beginning of this issue, it started with her releasing a survey. And it was estimated that the censure of Laura Ferguson would cost between $5,000 and $7,000, but it actually cost significantly much, much more than that. And Laura wasn't awarded the opportunity to have her attorney's fees and that representation paid for. But this council expects us to go to the CJPA to pay for Mayor Pro Tem's action in a civil suit that the city has not even made. And so far, this is going to cost the city $50,000. And that's not even just to pay for the judgment. It's to appeal to the CJPA. The city has the opportunity to quickly remedy the action with Laura Ferguson by releasing the documents. If the city continues to drag it out and litigate it, then the only people that are going to win is eventually the public when the documents are supposed to be released, and the attorneys. And the last time I remember similar suits is when the city actually sued the TCA in order to get the TCA to release public documents. And also there was a matter with Beaver versus the city and the TOT tax. And he thought that there was communication going on between council members, and he had to sue the city to get those released. And that cost the city $100,000, and the city lost. So end this now, release the documents, and let's get on.
That's all I have for the closed session.
Okay,
Motion to.
You're-
Wait,
adjourn.
hold on.
Okay, you
one
said
moment.
oral communications. So you're saying it's now?
Is this the last speaker, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay.
I sent you guys this electronically too. Oh. Can you restart my time, please? I sent you guys all your organizational chart today, and guess what? On the very top is me, citizens of San Clemente. You work for us and you have to do what we want you to do. You can check that out. I'm sure it'll be changed shortly. I have 4 topics. I'll just go through them really quickly. And they all have to do with your legal duty to the citizens and your breach of your oath of office.
Ms. Urbana, Mayor, could I just interject here?
Yes.
The
thank
4
you.
topics need to be related
Oh.
to the closed session items, Ms. Urbana. The open comment period follows closed session. So if you
We don't
could,
have any open comment section tonight.
yeah,
No, I'm coming now. I'm not
Hold
gonna
on for
stay here
5.
till midnight. I'm here.
no,
I'm gonna
there's,
speak.
there's one after the closed session, I believe, Ms. Bacon.
No, it's not.
It's number 5, but it is scheduled and it is not scheduled for now. So the attorney is correct. And thank you for.
So,
I
yeah,
am
we
not
just,
that.
coming back after 5 hours. I am
Motion to
speaking.
adjourn.
I
Hold
am
on one
speaking.
moment. So let's have some decorum in here. So if you can keep your comments to the items on closed session only, we can hear those now.
No, I'm not coming back at the end of the meeting. I am not. I'm here now
We
and I
can't-
want to speak.
This
I'm
is the
here now.
time.
I want to speak now.
City attorney,
we're
City
subject,
attorney,
please stop speaking.
we're
No.
subject to a stipulated court order
We are.
that allows
You're
us
right.
only to hear public comments on open mic
Right.
during that period, not during the closed session time that you.
We are. It's a decision that was made with Brad Malamud as the plaintiff, and we're going to follow that. So
no, I'm going to follow my
we are
constitutional
taking public
rights to
comment.
speak.
no,
Okay,
we aren't
yes,
taking
I'm gonna
public
talk.
comment.
I'm going to talk. The city of San
Motion to
Clemente's organizational.
Hold on
chart,
one second. Hold on one second.
Disenfranchisement of San Clemente residents who voted
Can
for
we turn
council
off her
member
microphone?
Laura Ferguson. I'm sorry, your sheriff isn't here to carry
Staff,
me off.
Can
For
you
Laura
please turn off the
Ferguson,
microphone?
Ole Hanson Beach Club
You're out
lease.
of order. You
I've
need to
asked for
stop.
4.
You're
This is the
out of
4th
order.
request for my public
Done.
records request to be answered.
No.
It hasn't been answered. And then I have a big debate about your number 4 South County, Orange County
Okay.
transportation.
So
You can-
I'm going to start speaking
So,
on,
thank
You
you.
can-
It's in closed session. Pardon me, Mayor Ward, but the TCA is an item in closed session. Litigation.
that's all she mentioned. She's mentioning other items. If she can just keep her comments to what's on the closed session,
Sure.
we will can hear that.
That's great.
Thank you.
I can't hear her. Her mic isn't working.
Dawn, we had to cut it off because you weren't obeying rules. No, speaking freely, you are at a public business meeting, which is a business meeting. No, so okay, you're
Okay.
on. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to finish. It is on.
I reclaim my time. God, I am so
No,
tired.
you already started speaking.
I'm asking if the mic is on.
It is on.
Okay,
You have
start my
2
time. I'd set 2
Madam
minutes
Clerk?
right now.
Set it for 2 minutes, please.
Yes, let it go down a couple, 3, 2, 1.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Now,
Okay, most of you know me as a swim instructor, and many of you may not know that I graduated from Tulane University with an undergraduate degree in structural engineering, and I also graduated from the University of San Diego School of Law with a degree in business litigation and contract law. While in law school, I was a legal intern at the Hotel del Coronado for most of that time, and part of my responsibilities, I was asked to sit on planning commission meetings and city council meetings anytime there was an issue that may affect the hotel's beaches. For example, the construction of a pier or jetty that extends into the ocean can affect the way the sand is removed from one beach and added to another. The reason the United States has federal environmental protection laws, NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, the Clean Water Act, and the Endangered Species Act is to ensure that local building projects will not negatively affect federal lands assets like major watersheds. Since 2016, I have continuously asked the city of San Clemente to seek an injunction of any construction of the SR 241 south of the Oso Bridge and asked for permission to reevaluate and revoke those SPL permits. Those are special permits, and they've been used in a fraudulent way. That's how come we keep building the road in segments to avoid a new review.
All right.
The TCA has been denied a wastewater discharge permit to
Is
extend.
that the end?
No,
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
stop interrupting me.
I'm not
Okay, put some
intending.
more
I
time
thought that
back
was
on
the
this
end.
clock. You're not
No.
supposed to do
Okay,
that.
just
She'll
keep
tell me
going.
when the time's up. Put the time back on the clock.
Don, just keep going.
The TCA had been denied wastewater discharge permits to extend SR 241 from Oso Parkway to the Orange County, San Diego County line 5 times since 2006 by multiple entities. Citing impacts would be permanent, irreversible, and for the most part, unmitigatable. No other alternative alignment poses the threat of unmitigatable and irrevocable impacts of such magnitude. As a result of these denials, the extension of SR 241 is currently being constructed in segments for the purposes of avoiding NEPA review.
that is time.
All right.
Listen,
Thank you very much for
I
your
have 48
comments.
seconds left.
Yeah.
here.
That it.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait, I need, before we do the motion to adjourn, I want to talk about closed session for a moment and ask if the council will consider deferring, excuse me. I would like the council to consider a motion to defer items B and C from closed session. They are not timely. And Councilmember Ferguson is not present to be here in person.
So moved.
What items are C and D?
B
I don't
and
have my
C.
agenda in front of me. It's in the other room.
It's on your, do you have?
It's in the
Okay.
other room.
It's significant exposure to litigation pursuant. It's something that we need to be informed on eventually, and liability claim Cypress Shore. And that can be moved to another meeting when staff
Okay. What was the other
discerns to
item?
bring it back.
What was the other item?
Excuse me?
What was the other item?
That is the other item.
Oh, you said. C and D.
Significant exposure to litigation pursuant to government code section.
There's more
want the
details in our confidential agenda that we get for closed session.
Well,
These
there's
are
no
items that I-
description.
They
There's
can,
no-
they can wait. And Councilman Ferguson is not here in person. They can wait. And so I am asking for those to be deferred. I did a motion. There's a second. And we will hear item A only,
Which
which
one?
consists of 2 items.
Which one-
Question?
Which one was the Cypress Shores? Is that D or C?
C.
There is no D.
And what is B?
Go
What
ahead.
is B? What is B? There's no description. By law, there should be at least a 20-word or less description.
City Attorney, would you care to opine on how we have
Well,
agendized
if you want
this?
me to, it's going to be moved if you vote not to consider it tonight.
Yeah.
But all the required disclosures are published here.
I would rather when, if this is what is required, we don't need to
is.
take that up.
In other words, you're not going to tell me, city attorney. Okay, you're going to keep that a secret in terms of what B is. And I need to make an announcement. I will be recusing myself from item A2. It's the second case under A. It's Laura Ferguson versus the city of San Clemente. So I will be recusing myself from that item tonight, which is going to be heard. And yeah, and that's it. And I'm home tonight. I'm quarantined, everyone out there watching, due to COVID, and I'm asymptomatic, so that's a positive. I feel wonderful, but I do have to self-isolate, so I'm participating from home tonight. So thanks all for your understanding.
All right, thank you for that. Madam Clerk, will you take the roll call vote, please, on that motion?
Councilmember, Councilmember Duncan,
Aye.
Councilmember Ferguson,
No.
Councilmember Noblock.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem James
Aye.
and Mayor Ward.
Aye.
Carries 4-1.
Okay. We're going into closed session. Okay, so this meeting is back in session.
Councilmember Duncan. He's here yet, right?
He was just making a quick stop.
Just wait a minute.
Go ahead and take the roll for the rest of the council.
Councilmember Ferguson,
Here.
Councilmember Noblock,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem James,
Here.
and Mayor Ward.
Present. We'll just note when
When he comes
Councilmember
in.
Duncan comes back in.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Pledge of Allegiance is the first item.
Okay. Councilmember Noblock, would you like to lead the pledge? Thank you.
Please rise with me and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
The flag, the United States. Under God.
Thank you.
The public hearing process includes staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. Following closure of the public hearing, the city council will respond to questions raised during the hearing, discuss the issues, and act upon the matter by motion. This evening's public hearing relates to a proposed increase to solid waste collection service rates.
All right. And our staff member,
We'll have Dave Riebensdorf, our Utilities Director, provide a presentation.
Yeah,
Mr. Dorff.
there should be a presentation if, I don't know if that's up or not. I can't see it.
It's not up
We're
yet.
bringing it up.
Okay, no problem.
It's up, Dave.
Okay, thank you. So Dave Riebensdorf, Utilities Director, Madam Mayor, members of the council, have a fairly brief presentation on the CR&R rate adjustments and agreement amendment. I do have key staff zoomed in to answer any detailed questions. Cynthia Mallett, Environmental Services Supervisor, Dean Ruffridge, and Maria Lazaruk with CR&R. Next slide, please. So the first component of the associated with the rate increase, it relates to the consumer price index. The current agreement we have with CR&R allows for annual rate adjustments on July 1st. And then an amendment that's recommended is the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics changed the region about 2 years ago. So we want to make sure we reflect the appropriate region in our agreement. So the proposed rate increases are shown at 1.62% for CPI and then 1.18 for landfill tipping and processing fees. Unfortunately, there was a delay in getting the Prop 218 noticing out. We missed it by 2 days. And so what's recommended is to charge our customers over a 9-month period instead of a 12-month period. So customers are currently receiving last year's rates. And so the impact to customers would be a 12-cent on the average customer would be a 12-cent per month increase. And at the end of the fiscal year, their rates would go down by 12 cents and then be adjusted with the CPI. Next slide, please. So the second component of the rate increase is related to legislation, Senate Bill 1383, organics diversion. It's a state mandate and it's to reduce short-lived climate pollutants such as methane gas. And so one of the major contributors is food waste and green waste that ends up in landfills and creates methane gas. And you can see at the bottom of the slide what the state's goals are. Next slide, please. So to assist the city in meeting these mandates and really help our customers to start recycling their food waste, staff is recommending approximately a $92,000 increase in the amendment. And so a major component is education to both residents and businesses. And another component is route reviews and waste characterization. So CR&R will go out to residents and commercial customers, and they'll open up their bins and lay them out on the ground and go through them and characterize the waste and make sure that they're disposing it or recycling properly. And so that information will then be shared with customers and then reported to the state to see how we are performing as a city. And then there's another component, the edible food recovery. So for grocery stores and restaurants that qualify, they'll be repurposing. So this is to connect the customers with an entity that will repurpose the food, and it will be used, like for instance, in a soup kitchen, and then it will be prepared for consumption rather than either being recycled or just sent to the landfill. Next slide, please. So how does this impact our customers? And so our most common customer class is a 65-gallon 3-cart set once per week. And so customers' current rates are $22.82 per month. And on October 1st, they'll go up 47 cents to $23.29 per month. And then on January 1st, based on the SB 1383 recommended services, customers' rates would go up by an additional 22 cents to $23.51 per month. And so I do want to mention, we have a number of customers, about 4,000 customers that have exemptions from the food scrap diversions. And unfortunately, because of the new state requirements, they will no longer have those exemptions. And so really those are customers that don't have a lot of green waste where they can put their food waste into the green waste bins, but they will be provided carts. And so they'll move into the 3-gallon or 35-gallon 3-cart set. And so lastly, I just want to mention the city council approved in the current budget to hire a consultant to evaluate CR&R's current contract, and then come back and make recommendations for either negotiating with CR&R, keep the contract the same, or to go out for an RFP. And so that'll be coming back to the council, and that will be done prior to July 1st. I do want to mention there are some big benefits with utilizing CR&R as our waste hauler. In 2016, we bought into the Paris anaerobic digester. And so that allows our food and green waste to go out to that facility. That facility produces methane gas, and that's used for CR&R in their fleet of vehicles to power their vehicles. And then another component of that waste or recycling is compost. And so that compost is used at Lowe's and Home Depot, for instance, and sold back to consumers. So with that, that's all I have, unless there's any questions of the council or public.
Okay, council.
Madam Mayor, I have about 3 questions.
Okay.
And Mr. Riebensdorf, or this question may be from Ms. Mallett, I believe she takes the lead on food waste. It appears to me that although we have a statutory obligation to fulfill it, in regards to the restaurant industry, the current requirements are quite burdensome for the restaurants. Are we engaged in education or enforcement, or how are we helping the restaurants through this? I hear about this quite a bit from the restaurant community.
Cynthia, do you want to take that one, or I can answer it too?
It's up to you. I can answer that. It is going to be burdensome on the restaurants as well as the patrons, because they are going to have to set up a three waste stream system for trash, recycling, and organics. So it is going to be probably costly for them. And in regards to enforcement, our first step is always education. We're here to help them set up the system, try and guide them on the materials that they're purchasing that can either be recycled or organically composted. For example, like plasticware that could be made out of corn instead of plastic that could go into the organics bin. So our first step is to educate and help guide them. If we do not get them subscribed to the service after 3 attempts or more, we would first start out with a notice of noncompliance to the restaurants to strongly encourage them to participate. Now, some of the situations occur now. CRNR has a split bin rate where half of a 3-yard dumpster could be for trash and half for recycling, which is less than if they put all of it into the trash bin. So there could be some cost savings for the restaurants. And until they're educated and guided by our staff and consultants, they may not be aware of that. So that is why education is our first step.
And how are we coming along with that? Are our restaurants complying? Do they have an issue with complying? What's going on there? Are we better than we were a year ago?
Yes, well, that mandate started January 1st of this year to roll the restaurants in. And so we are getting new accounts subscribed to service. We're in the middle of that outreach program. So we don't have the final numbers yet, or not final, but current numbers, but we are getting new restaurants on board with the 3-stream waste system. And so it is making progress. If we do not get these businesses in compliance, then the state can actually come to us for enforcement on us, but we don't want to go that route. So we are making some progress with the restaurants.
And
I think,
is the state monitoring our progress as a city?
yes, they are. And they ask on a regular basis, almost monthly, what is your diversion percentage, or how many businesses do you have compliant? Now, at the beginning of this year, we had 69% compliant with the organics diversion, but that did not include the numbers for the restaurants that got rolled in on January 1st. So we are figuring we are going to have, that percentage might be a little bit less than 69% because there's going to be hundreds of restaurants that need to get enrolled into the organics diversion program. But we are making progress. We do have customers signing up. So it's fortunate that they're actually participating.
And so then our food waste is going to, in theory, our food waste then goes to the Paris facility to create methane gas. Is that correct?
That's correct. Not only it creates methane gas for CRNR's fleet of vehicles, but there's a methane gas line adjacent to that Paris facility, and that methane gas is feeding that regional line. So that is beneficial in that respect. And then the compost that comes from the Paris facility, there are events that the city can participate in where CRNR will send a coupon to our customers, and they can go pick up 2 free bags of compost once per year. So that's a benefit to our city. Sometimes we hold that event at our city facility. Sometimes it's at another local city in Southern California here, or in South Orange County.
And then this may be urban legend, but I continually hear this from the residents. Is CRNR, are they currently combine, and this may be a Dave question, are they still separating our recycling from our trash? At some point in time, were they combining the two during COVID? What's the genesis of these rumors or these statements people are making?
So during the height of COVID, they were having some service issues, so they were combining the two. And then my understanding is there have been, you're probably familiar with, there's been a few complaints with CRNR picking up both with the same truck. And so those are, I think they're having problems, and Dean can probably answer that question better than me, but they're having, operator issues and staffing challenges is my understanding.
And so the last thing, and this may be a Dean question, but Dave, I would like to take a tour of the Paris facility, and it seems like it's really an interesting thing CRNR has done. And if you could set up a tour, and maybe one of my fellow council members would like to go with me, could we do that?
Yeah, we had a tour a couple of years ago with the Coastal Advisory Committee and invited council members. And so we'll work with CRNR to make that happen. I think they give tours all the time. And I don't know if Dean is online, if they're postponing that because of COVID right now, or you're still doing tours, but we'll get one as soon as we can.
Very good, thank you. And then the last thing I have, Madam Mayor, is what's 1383?
Assembly bill. I'm sorry, Senate bill.
Senate Bill 1383.
I can answer that. Senate Bill 1383 is a short-lived climate pollutant legislation to reduce the amount of methane that's coming out of landfills. And when things go to the landfill, they start rotting, and then it emits methane gas, which can impact the environment. So the goal is to reduce the amount of organic material, green waste like landscape waste and food waste from going to the landfill so that it's not generating that methane waste. So that's what these SB 1383 requirements are, the mandates are to divert that food waste and green waste to the anaerobic digester, which we have with CRNR, where they can create the methane gas for fueling systems and then for the compost.
Thank you, Ms. Mallett.
You're welcome.
I have, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Noblock.
Quick question. Could you tell us a little bit about the edible food recovery program? Is that actually working, and are you providing food that's edible, and who are you providing it to?
So we do not have that set up yet. That is planned to begin on January 1st. There is an Orange County organization or agency called Abound, and they have the means to coordinate with the food generators that would generate edible food and track getting that food to a kitchen where it can be repurposed for consumption. So that is the contract that CRNR would hold with Abound, and then they would then coordinate getting that food repurposed and track it. We have to have all the tracking and information for that program.
Thank you, Cynthia. Dave, if I could ask a question of you. During your presentation, you mentioned that the contract would be reviewed, analyzed, and reporting back. I think you said July, but was that July of 22? Or?
Yes, that's prior to July 1st of 2022.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Duncan.
A quick point of clarification, Mayor Ward. Mayor Pro Tem James mentioned the potential burden on restaurants as they switch over. Maybe this is for you, Cynthia, to the green waste. I've done enough work in restaurants before. I know you dump everything in the garbage as fast as you can, move on, right? And I know that's efficient, but I can tell from my own experience, as we have in my household transferred to putting organic waste in the green bin, we have a lot more room in our regular garbage bin, right? So we don't go overflowing. We don't need to dispose of it other ways. Is that something that's being communicated to restaurants, that there may be actually sort of an economic benefit here, or if once they kind of get the program going, because they won't be using up so much of their regular garbages because they'll be diverting it to the green bins?
Yes, there may be some cost benefits for the customer. It really depends on the amount of material that they're generating. One, again, if they're reducing the amount of trash going into their dumpsters or carts, they may not have to subscribe to as much trash service, which would reduce on that side. But then if they're having more organics, they have to subscribe to the organic cart, which is a separate fee. So it may offset, but again, it really depends on the customer. And our goal is to find ways to reduce the costs for the businesses, or at least keep it stagnant, but just getting them to separate the materials into the different three waste streams.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Ferguson.
Yes, thanks. I have a question for Mr. Rebensdorf. You had mentioned that a consultant would be reviewing the contract with CRNR and compare to other cities and so forth, and potential other providers. I heard just today, and I didn't have time to follow up with it with the city of Dana Point, but I heard from some residents that the city of Dana Point did conduct a review. to see if they had some, could find some efficiencies, cost efficiencies. So I just wanted to mention that if you hadn't heard, and perhaps you could look into it and see if they'll share what they've gauged.
Yeah, well, I believe Dana Point went with CR&R, I think. So yeah, we certainly will reach out to our counterparts in adjacent cities.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
So I have just a quick question. There was comments made about the difficulty on restaurants. And one thing that I saw in this contract is that CR&R is going to provide us a full-time recycle coordinator. So I'm assuming that that person is going to be working very closely with the restaurants and the rest of the city in order to implement the program. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we have two options. One, CR&R will either provide a staff member, or we will utilize some of that funding to hire a firm to assist the city. It's really going to depend upon the level of service that CR&R can provide, and whether or not we want to provide that service through a third party.
Okay, I appreciate that. So we have some flexibility in who monitors or helps with that program. So I understand that. One thing that I had heard from residents, and this is over the last couple of years, some of our senior residents don't have very much trash, and they don't want to see any increases. But I do appreciate that you clarified that they will be able to go to a 35-gallon and carts, and their price would be less, but they just have to apply for that. So I'm going to ask if that is something, once this goes into effect, that we send that out to all of our 6,000 accounts and tell them that they have that option.
I think we can work with CR&R to put that in, a newsletter to the customers that class is available. That if they're finding that they have less, recycling and disposal, that they can, revert to a 35-gallon service in lieu of the 65.
What would be with their bill?
Good idea.
Yeah, I like to hear that, because we've heard that, and obviously 4,342 accounts figured out how to opt out of the program when we implemented it in 2016. So they will now be bound by it, because SB 1383 requires that everyone be bound by it by January 1st. So I applaud you, because I think I didn't realize that many accounts had taken that option. So obviously you're doing a good job on NCNR of getting that word out if so many people opted out. So I do appreciate that. The last thing that I would say before we open it up to the public hearing for comments is that Cynthia and Dave, I see in the first page, the only mention of these cost increases are for maintenance costs and labor, but vehicle maintenance specifically is outlined. We need to talk to CR&R about the maintenance of their vehicles, and specifically oil on our streets. And so I just want to say that just quickly before we get into anything else, that in the future, as we talk to them, that issue is talked about.
Absolutely. We'll reiterate that.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to,
Mayor, I have
go ahead.
one quick question.
All right.
On the food recovery, I thank Councilmember Knobloch for bringing that up, because I forgot to ask about it. Years ago, I came out of the restaurant industry, and years ago, I actually, at a corporate level, I actually disapproved the food recovery a national food recovery program. The reason why I did was due to product liability issues. Is there some sort of hold harmless agreement that's implied here or written in anywhere? How is a restaurant protected from a product liability perspective? Or a supermarket for that matter?
I can speak to that. So the company, the agency Abound, they have very rigid health requirements when they're going to repurpose, collect food from a restaurant or the grocery stores. If that food does not appear that it could be consumable after it's repurposed, they do not want to accept it. So from that standpoint, that agency is doing a QA/QC on the food they're actually picking up from the actual grocery store or restaurant. And then from there, that food is then taken over to a kitchen where it's going to be prepared for consumption. And if they see any type of problems with the food, then they're not going to repurpose it. We'd have to look at the contracts and we can make sure that those agreements between the Abound agency and the restaurants and the food kitchens, that there is some type of liability clause in there so that they don't get affected if there's some type of health concerns related to the food. Is that your concern?
Yeah, you answered my question. I'm all for it. However, I will tell you that you go to any risk manager in the supermarket industry or the chain restaurant industry, and you're putting their risk in the hands of someone that's outside their organization, and they're going to be just like I was 8-9 years ago, where I said, "Oh no, we're not going to do that." So, you know, I know there's nothing you all can do about it, but I would like, for one, to promote that program to our local restaurants, both chain and mom and pop operators. However, without that hold harmless agreement in there, it's going to be a hard sell to anyone. I'm just giving you that feedback. That's the way the private sector is going to look at it. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any comments?
Yes, we have one from Ellen Pullen.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Some of the items I was going to address this evening have already been covered, so I will not bore you with that again. I understand historically the city has never paid for trash service, and the residents and the businesses in this city have always paid for that. Is there any chance of changing that so by the residents and the businesses pay what they put into the trash or thereabouts? A question that cannot be answered tonight, but perhaps in the future you can address that. CR&R did not uphold their contract with us during the COVID, where they were mixing waste constantly or not picking it up on time. I don't believe we ever addressed CR&R and said, folks, you've got to adhere to your contract or you've got to give us some concession in some manner. It seems to be a one-way street. When it's time to raise the rates, we go along with it and buy it wholeheartedly. We don't question it. We don't ask if Dana Point's paying less. After all, we went to the Paris facility earlier on than many other cities. Are we going to pay a lesser fee today because of that? Or are we paying the same fee? These are questions which I think staff should be providing you so that you can make an intelligent decision. However, I also would recommend that the hiring of a consultant who will do what you ask him or her to do be speeded up so that you get information well before July of next year, so that you can make a decision at that point whether you are going to negotiate with CR&R or you're going to switch carriers, haulers. We need to have the council represent the citizens of this city and not let a contractor run over us. If I was a contractor, I'd love to have a contract with you folks. I can make a ton. Thank you.
Can we have another speaker? Don Quincy.
Good evening, Don Kunze here. I have a question regarding, well, the numbers that you threw out, and I'm an apartment complex manager, and each apartment has 3 cans. And so it started out something about 12 cents a month, and then you went to 47 cents in October and 22 in January. Can I get a kind of a refresh on that, what I'm talking about? To whoever could answer it.
I don't know if we can pull up the presentation, the second to last slide.
The last question too then is, I heard rumor that because of this solid waste thing, a lot of talk about restaurants. the rumor was that we were going to get a fourth can. Any rumors about that? Those are my questions. Thank you.
So before we answer that, do we have any more public comments? No. Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Dave, if you, okay, you're bringing that up now. So Dawn, if you can look at this. Okay, it's on, if Dave could tell me if I'm wrong, I think it's on page 18 and 19 and 20 and 21. It talks about multifamily bin service and says exactly how many cans and what it costs. It's on the staff report, which after we're done, I'd be happy to give you mine if you would like it. Okay. So Dave, is there any comment that you would like to make on those questions?
Yeah, I don't have his exact rate, so I don't know that I can go through that. But he's if he wants to contact staff, we can have that discussion. But just to understand the rate increases, so the first on October 1st is based on the CPI index change. And then there's that roughly 12 cent for average customer that's going up because we're spreading that CPI over 9 months instead of 12. And it's different depending upon the customer classes. And then we have the SB 1383 changes that go into effect for organics. And that would happen on January 1st. And then those increases based on CPI, the 12 cent over the 9 months, that would end at the end of the fiscal year. So if it's 12 cents, the 12 cents drops off, and then the new rates would be based on the new CPI, the last 12 months CPI.
Okay, and another question from the public was whether we saved any money when we entered into this program in 2016.
So we actually paid more, is my understanding. I wasn't involved in that contract, but we did pay a little bit more to get in early on the anaerobic digester. And so I can't speak to where we compare to other agencies. I know there's limited capacity in the anaerobic digester. So I don't know if Dean is available to answer that question of what other agencies are paying in comparison to the city to buy into that service.
I'll be happy to, Dave.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Mayor Ward, hi. Dean Ruffridge here from CRNR. The city of San Clemente in 2016 did buy into the anaerobic digester for an average cost per household of approximately $2.53 per month. So that impacted all your ratepayers back in 2016, 2017. Currently, cities that are coming on board with the anaerobic digester are coming in the neighborhood of $3 and $3.25. So signing on when you did has actually saved your residents somewhere between 50 and 75 cents a month. And from an environmental standpoint, you've been producing methane gas since 2016, whereas some cities haven't signed on to any organics program in Orange.
So, Mr. Ruffridge, does that mean that those cities aren't going to be
subject to?
I'm sorry, if an Orange County city hasn't signed up yet and they're not in compliance by January 1st, 2022, that means they're in violation, isn't that correct?
They could be in violation, although the governor, I understand, has a bill on his desk right now, and Maria, I believe it's Maria Lazaruk's on also. I think it's AB 619 to postpone penalties for a certain amount of time, and they're talking someplace in the neighborhood of 6 months.
Okay.
To allow some tail end cities to get on board.
Okay, I see, to give them some more time, but my memory of being on that council that did vote for this program in 2016 was that we were going to save money. It was going to cost us less to join at that time, and that's why we did it. We did not get in for any other reason except for that.
Sounds like that's the case because the rates are higher now.
Right. Okay.
Madam Mayor, if you would like, I'll be happy to answer another question that the gentleman had regarding the fourth can.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Some cities have chosen to go to a fourth can. In other words, they have a trash can, a commingled recycling plan, a can, and a green waste can, and a fourth can would be like a bucket for food scraps only. That is somewhat popular in Northern California. It does require 4 passes by each house instead of 3. But in your situation, and because CRNR was forth thinking some years ago, we permitted and built an anaerobic digester in Paris, which takes the combination of all organics, in other words, food scraps and green waste together. So it did not require a fourth can, does not require a 4th pass.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I didn't have any other question written down that from the public other than those.
Madam Mayor, I just had one comment with Cynthia Mallet, if she's still on the line.
Say that again?
Cynthia Mallet, is she still on the line?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Cynthia, I just wanted to warn you, there's like a really big spider on the wall behind you.
Sorry, I didn't get my background up. Oh, no, thank you.
Sure you wanted to.
Madam Mayor, I'll be to make a
Oh,
motion if
excuse
it's
me,
appropriate.
Councilmember. I do have one announcement to make before you make a motion.
Thank you.
My office received 12 written protests to the proposed rate increases, which does not represent a majority protest of the 27,903 parcels that would be subject to the rate increase.
Okay, I appreciate that. If there had been a major protest, we would be not taking this up today.
Seeing that
go
there's no
ahead.
major protest, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt Resolution 21-36 entitled Resolution of the City Council of the City of San Clemente, California, approving solid waste collection rate adjustments due to changes in the consumer price index and landfill disposal and processing costs, and rate increases to implement SB 1383 services, and approving amendment number 2 to the franchise agreement with CCNR Inc., and that we approve and authorize our city manager to execute amendment number 2 to the franchise agreement by and between the city of San Clemente and CRNR contract number C87-62.
I'll second that. I just want to make one comment. I think one of the things that the public needs to be aware of, and Councilmember Novak mentioned it, this rate increase we're contractually obligated to as a result of the consumer price index increase. I think a lot of people don't realize that, and they need to realize it. It's a contractual obligation we have.
Right. Since 2016, we've been in this contract.
So I second that.
All right, so motion by Councilmember Knobloch with a second by Mayor Pro Tem James.
Councilmember Duncan.
Aye.
Councilmember Ferguson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noblock.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem James.
Aye.
And Mayor Ward.
Aye.
Carries 5-0. The next item is the 2020-2021 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, the CAPER, for expenditure of community development block grant funds.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Would you like a staff report on this item?
Very short, assuming that the council read the report.
Okay, thank you. Cecilia Gallardo Daly, Community Development Director. This is the 2021 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, also known as the CAPER, for expenditure of the Community Development Block Grant Funds. To continue receiving Community Development Block Grant or CDBG funds, the council must approve this report, which summarizes program activities and expenditures and accomplishments for all of our CDBG funded activities for the prior fiscal year. In this case, it would be 2020-2021 reporting period. This CAPER includes information on the expenditure of our regular annual CDBG funds that we receive on a regular basis from HUD, and the CDBG CV funds, which the city received through the CARES Act this year to address COVID. Any unexpended CDBG funds, either CV or regular, will be carried over into the next program year to be used for any CDBG or CV eligible activities. Staff recommends that the council approve and adopt the 2021 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report for submittal to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. That concludes the staff report, and I'm available for questions, as is Mike Linares, our Community Development Block Grant Consultant.
Okay, is there any questions for staff from council? I see none, so I'm going to open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any comments? No. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
Could I just make one? I'm going to make the motion. Can I make one quick comment, Mayor Ward? I just want to say, Cecilia, thank you. Thank you for the report. Thank you to you and your staff for the work you did helping us distribute the HUD funds, the CDBG funds, and the CDBG COVID funds. I'm frankly proud of what we did on council, distributing these funds, especially to our restaurants in their time of need. We started that business program where we gave grants to small businesses in the depths of COVID when they could not operate normally. Your staff was instrumental in helping us get that done, and then also diverting funds for Carly, our homeless outreach coordinator. That came from those funds too. That was also an idea first started from your office. So thank you very much, Cecilia, to you and your staff for getting that going. One last thing on one of the other programs that maybe doesn't get a lot of attention is the rehabilitation program for housing. And I was actually meeting with Father Patrick Carrar over at St. Clement's by the Sea. He pointed out the church had a home that they used the funds to rehabilitate and put a low-income family in. So really like that program. Glad we've been able to use that to help people rehabilitate housing to make more affordable housing in town. And again, thank you for your office being instrumental in all of that. With that, if there's no more comments, I will make a motion to approve and adopt the 2020-21 Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report, the CAPER, for submittal to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Second.
Would you give Councilmember Ferguson a second?
Absolutely.
Okay, so motion by Councilmember Duncan with a second by Councilmember Ferguson.
Councilmember Duncan.
Aye.
Councilmember Ferguson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noblock.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem James
Aye.
and Mayor Ward.
Aye.
Carries 5-0.
And I would second that to staff. Great report. And I think we did a good job on this also. Really appreciate all the work, and for our consultant too. Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is a report from the Community Development Director concerning the possibility of resuming efforts to update and complete the local coastal program.
Thank you, Mayor. Would you like a brief staff presentation on this item?
Yes. Just
Okay.
for the public also.
Sure, thank you. Cecilia Gallardo Daly, Community Development Director. This is a request for the City Council to direct staff to resume work on updating and completing the local coastal program. In 2018, the city completed the certification of the Coastal Land Use Plan. This was a comprehensive update of the 1995 Coastal Land Use Plan. Then a year later in 2019, city staff appeared before the California Coastal Commission to remove a reference to 1977 that was erroneously added to the 2018 Land Use Plan update. Unfortunately, Coastal Commission staff wanted to leave 1977 in the land use plan and add a new definition that would include a new date for what constituted existing structures for the purposes of Coastal Act implementation. In the Coastal Act, an existing structure has rights to shoreline protection. That would mean that only anything built before 1977 would have rights or would be allowed shoreline protection. No other local coastal program had that date for what constitutes existing, and San Clemente did not want to be the first. We thought that to define existing as 1977 was an overreach with insufficient legal grounding. Because of the city's significant concerns related to this new definition, the city chose to withdraw our land use plan amendment prior to the Coastal Commission taking action. This area of disagreement resulted in the city pausing all efforts on the local coastal program certification process, which involves not only the completion of this land use plan amendment, but also development of an implementation plan, which is the zoning component of all of this, and completion of our coastal resiliency plan. Since that time, city staff at the direction of council has reached out to Coastal Commission leadership to see if there was an opportunity to find a path forward in order to certify a local coastal program. The city met with the executive director and deputy director of the Coastal Commission and received assurances that the land use plan and the implementation plan would remain silent on what constitutes existing. This commitment on the definition of existing structures eliminates a major area of disagreement between the city and coastal staff. With this commitment, city staff supports continuing our efforts on certification of a full local coastal program. This would include not only correcting the land use plan, but resuming work on the implementation plan and completing the coastal resiliency plan. With that, staff recommends that the city council direct staff to proceed with the completion of the local coastal program certification. That concludes the staff presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Council, do we have any questions on that?
No question, just a comment that it's an absolutely wonderful process that we need to move forward on. And I think if we can spare our citizens the time and energy of dealing with the Coastal Commission and dealing here locally, it'd be a wonderful thing. So I'm very excited about this. I'm glad the coastal staff has made some concessions to us. And I'm just excited about moving forward with this.
Okay, so
Agreed.
seeing no other questions, I'm going to open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any comments? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. I would echo and thank staff and also BBK staff for their time in this. And I think, Cecilia, you and our consultants did an excellent job in that meeting, not getting the date 1977 to be forever in our land use plan. So I appreciate all that effort and the effort to try to come up with a solution to this. So I'll entertain a motion.
I just want to give Cecilia and her team the same kudos. You did a great job here. This is something that absolutely positively needs to go forward. So I thank Scott, and I thank Cecilia for moving forward with this plan. Councilmember Knobloch, I'm so excited about it. I'm going to defer to him to make the motion.
I will, unless anyone else would like to make it.
I just like to sort of, for clarification purposes, this allows the city to do the permitting for remodeling and things like that, instead of having to go to the Coastal Commission and through all of that bureaucracy. So you have that element of local control, and we get, the city being able to weigh in quickly, more efficiently for those permits for our residents, rather than having to go to this outside agency. So that's what Councilmember Knobloch was mentioning, and I completely agree with that as well, but I will let you make the motion.
Okay, I'll move that we direct staff to proceed with the local coastal plan certification.
Second.
So a motion by Councilmember Knobloch and a second by Councilmember Duncan. And before we take the vote, I would just like to ask a question of staff to manage expectations for the public. When this is a process, when could where it might be implemented? What year?
I think realistically, we are looking at getting certification of the local coastal program and permitting authority, I would say in January 2023.
Okay, thank you very much.
2023?
2023, January.
Is that right? No, yes, that's right, 2023, yes.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Duncan.
Aye.
Councilmember Ferguson.
Aye.
Councilmember Knobloch.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem James.
Aye.
And Mayor Ward.
Aye.
Carries 5-0.
Thank you.
The next item is a report from the city manager concerning the possibility of approving the South County Traffic Relief Cooperative Agreement.
So Mayor, members of the City Council, before you today, you have a cooperative agreement that consists of the City of San Clemente, the County of Orange, and the Orange County Transportation Authority. Today at the Orange County Board of Supervisors meeting, this cooperative agreement was taken up. It was approved 4-1 with some minor edits. That is why you have a new draft cooperative agreement that was distributed to both the clerk and to yourselves. The minor edits consists of a sunset date, meaning when these three projects, and I'll back up, this cooperative agreement memorializes 3 South County regional mobility projects. The construction of the LPPE is a non-tolled county primary arterial road. The creation of a high occupancy vehicle lane improvement on Interstate 5 between Avenida Pico and the San Diego County line, and the Ortega Highway State Route 74 widening in San Juan Capistrano from 2 to 4 lanes. So Supervisor Bartlett has been the champion of this cooperative agreement to provide the assurances to the city of San Clemente that our open space and our conservation easements will be recognized in the event of any transportation project being proposed to be going through San Clemente. This agreement does 2 things. One, it recognizes our open space via the voter approved Measure V, as well as the conservation easements that exist within San Clemente. And 2, it clearly identifies that any future road projects, excuse me, must go through Orange County Transportation Authority's Long Range Transportation Plan, which is referred to as the LRTP. These are significant for the city of San Clemente because it assures us that nothing will be built in open space or conservation easements, while also promoting regional mobility to South County with these 3 projects, which it's anticipated that these 3 projects will bring a lot of arterial relief to a number of cities, and that's a good thing. And so I'm open to any questions. I know that we have our toll road subcommittee that comprises of the mayor and the mayor pro tem, who have been working with Supervisor Bartlett and her stakeholder group on this cooperative agreement. The OCTA will be taking this item up at their October board meeting. And that will be the last agency that needs to approve this agreement. And as I said, the county approved it today. And now it's before you tonight as well. So maybe we'll take public comments if there's any before we deliberate.
Let's take public comments first. Okay. We're
Mayor,
gonna open the
if I
public
could-
hearing.
Oh, Mayor Ward, if I could just
Yes.
interject, so the public knows, the published version of the agreement differs in slight respects from what the Board of Supervisors voted out today earlier. And so we have a revised copy for anyone who'd like to see it. But the recommendation is that we adopt the version approved by the Board of Supervisors.
Right. So where is the copy of that they can get that?
I think that the clerk put some in the back of the room.
The version approved by the Board of Supervisors is in the inspection copy.
Thank you, John. And I've got an extra one here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
Was that online or just hard copy?
Just hard copy.
It'll be online soon.
Out in the hallway is the inspection copy. So you can leave to go and do that. I've opened the public hearing. Do we have any public comments?
We have one from Amanda Kittenamp.
Council members. When I first read this cooperative agreement, C-2139, I immediately thought, what TCA mole wrote this? Because it will take away rights from San Clemente residents and the powers of our city council. This cooperative agreement has many flaws, and the emphasis of Senator Bates' bills SB 760 and SB 761 seems to be completely irrelevant, but it really isn't. That is the big prize, to do away with SB 760 and SB 761. I looked at Mayor Ward's support letters for SB 760 and 761. In her support letter for 761, it says, this measure makes it clear that no future thoroughfares shall encroach upon property in any area that is subject to a conservation easement or is protected as open space under a local initiative within the city of San Clemente. She says that it's comparable to AB 1426, which is Assembly Member Tasha Borner Horvath's bill that protected San Onofre State Beach and the Richard H. and Donna O'Neill Conservancy. Yet if you read further, Mayor Ward mentions Section B of SB 761, that this section does not apply to State Route 5 and lands immediately adjacent to State Route 5 or the extension of Los Patrones Parkway as an untolled county arterial highway. That's part of Senator Bates' bill. It doesn't protect the extension of the Los Patrones Parkway extension, so they could extend to the I-5. Also, it was my understanding from Senator Bates' legislative director that she will be working on Section B. Councilmember Duncan even brought this up at the city council meeting, and he emailed me that he understands we are working with Senator Bates to amend SB 761 to state LPP ends at La Plata. However, this cooperative agreement is a huge trap. Senator Bates' legislative staff emailed me the status of SB 760 a while ago, and now it's a 2-year bill. And this is what it's the eye-opening statement of hers. What it means for SB 760, it is now a 2-year bill. The bill remains eligible to move forward in January if no multi-party cooperative agreement is reached. This cooperative agreement is a multi-party cooperative agreement, and because of it, Senator Bates' bills would be ineligible to move forward in 2022. Furthermore, this cooperative agreement expands the encroachment into San Clemente, allowing more extensive development into San Clemente. This agreement goes against everything that residents have fought for the last 4 years. Senator Bates' bill, once amended, offers greater protection than this agreement and blocks its TCA from any development into San Clemente. This agreement is a poor substitute and will have no effect on the TCA since the TCA is not a party to this agreement.
Madam Clerk?
That's all.
Okay, so I'm going to close the public comments. City Attorney, can you opine on the comment that this agreement provides more extensive development than what we would have had before?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Council. Just to put it real simply, today, the County of Orange may build a freeway anywhere it wants in the county, including through the middle of San Clemente. Today, the Orange County Transit Authority could build a freeway anywhere it wants in the county, including through the middle of San Clemente. To put insult on injury, they could also do that and close it to the general public and make it a toll freeway. Tomorrow, or I should say the day after OCTA takes up and passes this agreement, that will no longer be true. So I just don't even understand the theory that somehow this liberalizes the opportunity for those 2 regional transit agencies with complete authority to go anywhere they want in their jurisdiction to build a freeway through San Clemente. This, for all intents and purposes, would end that possibility, especially as it to the extent it binds OCTA.
And I believe, I can't find it right this second, but there's language in here that La Plata or Los Patrones Parkway stops at La Plata.
That's right.
Okay. And we also, for the public to know, we also already have a cooperative agreement with the county, Rancho Mission Viejo. Is OCTA in that?
No.
No, so it's Rancho Mission Viejo, the county, and us, where we already have a cooperative agreement on the design and of Los Patrones Parkway.
They're bound to design it according to San Clemente's design standards and according to our general plan standards.
That's
Yes.
even though there's only 700 feet in San Clemente.
Even though.
Right. Okay. I just wanted, because we heard that this is more extensive development. I think my comment would be that the toll road was much more substantial development through our city than this stopping at La Plata. Before I say any more comments, anyone else? Go ahead, Councilmember Noblock.
Yeah, I
And then
have a
I'll get-
comment. I just want to say I'm supportive of the cooperative agreement. I think our subcommittee that has worked on this for quite some time should be commended. I think the strategy put in place, I think brought the toll road in the county, I want to say to their knees, but basically they capitulated to us and said, we're not going to have a toll road. This agreement prevents a toll road from ever being built. It prevents any road from being built on open space and conservation space, which is a good thing. And I think county mobility is important. I think we will have arterial highways, but we will not have toll roads. We will not have freeways. It's a positive thing. And I'm hopeful that the OCTA will approve it. And I'm just delighted with the progress. I want to commend the staff, our subcommittee that worked on this Mayor Ward and Mayor Pro Tem James for working on this and developing a strategy that brought us to this point. I think it's good for the city and I'm supportive.
Thank you. Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem, and then Councilmember Ferguson. Go ahead.
This was a difficult decision for me. I started absolutely against this agreement. I will tell you that we worked very hard. I'm going to give kudos to Mayor Ward. She did yeoman's work in dealing with the TCA and the other outside agencies. I will tell you that, in my view, the TCA did not bargain with us in good faith. They were in, they were out, they were in, then they were out, and they've been out. I will also tell you that the TCA and the proponents of the TCA have gone into overdrive in the past few days in trying to convince the Board of Supervisors not to vote for this cooperative agreement. The CEO of the TCA probably got over his skis and probably said some things that were not correct to a couple of supervisors, and that's unfortunate. I will support, as Councilmember Novak has just indicated, I will support this. I would, again, I'm going to give kudos to Mayor Ward because I probably would have walked out on them the second or third meeting. Keep in mind what we're talking about here is a primary arterial, and I'm going to have a question for the city attorney in just a moment. The primary arterial is 100 feet across. A TCA toll road, by its very definition, is 160 feet across. So to use that same space for a toll road at some point in time, you would have to have a 60% increase in the right of way. I just don't see that occurring. Now, city attorney, the question I'm going to have for you is, as a primary arterial takes a lot of different flavors, as those of us who have really researched it know. As we get into the design of this primary arterial, we're locking ourselves into supporting this agreement and supporting. I hate the term Las Patronas Parkway extension because it's not a parkway extension. But as we get into this, how much influence will the city have in creating the design of this roadway?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The city will have all kinds of opportunities to give input on the entire stretch of the road as it exists at the connection at Cal Camp and beyond. But when it comes to the city entry, the city's general plan has very specific design elements relating to the entries to the city. Some cases in point would include the pedestrian bridge over La Pata, Avenida La Pata right now, the entrance to El Camino Real at the north end of the city from Dana Point headed our way, and Del Rio and the upper stretches as they tee off La Pata. Those are specific examples given in the general plan that would apply to this entry of the city as it comes down the hill from planning area 5, which is supposed to be a very high quality development, and as it approaches the city with those even more stringent and specific design standards. That, if I could, the only pushback we've gotten on that is not really pushback, and that's that because of the surrounding natural areas, which we also want to preserve and enhance, there'll be a plant palette that's limited to non-invasive species that the county desires to use up there. Of course, we would want that also, but that is the only caveat they've given us yet in discussions on that point of negotiation.
In my last point, and it's been made already a couple times, but I think it's important to state it. This saves the city from the possibility of a toll road or a freeway coming through our city. This is memorialized forever and ever. And I think we have saved the city from that fate in the future.
Councilmember Ferguson. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Ward. This cooperative agreement, in reading each paragraph, it's missing a lot. Since this is a chronological timeline of events, it's important that all events that have occurred are included, and not just those, but whoever selected to be included in this. I don't know who crafted this. It was the subcommittee or multiple people of the multiple agencies, but it's missing some pretty critical events that have happened. For one, it does not mention the city's lawsuit against the TCA was dismissed in late July by the judge, because the judge rendered that lawsuit moot. There's also no mention of the fact that this council has had Los Patronos, the rescission of Los Patronos in the general plan on 4 meeting agendas and haven't addressed it yet. So it doesn't just go away. We at some point need to address that. And that's not noted in here either. We just deferred it. So we never took action on it yet, and we need to. In fact, in August, I had mentioned when I think it was you, Mayor Ward, who made the motion. I seconded it to continue that, defer it. I asked the city manager to provide an analysis so we, the council, and the public knows what are the implications of rescinding the Los Patronos, the support for that in the general plan. Because in that agenda report, it mentioned doing CEQA, but we didn't need to have CEQA to add it. So we never heard back from the city manager. There's no analysis tonight. So I think we can make an informed decision without taking care of unfinished business. And then
in this cooperative agreement, it talks about Senator Bates' bill 760 and 761. Both excellent pieces of legislation. As we know, the section B in 761, we had asked her, well, several people asked her office, I was one of them, to please amend that so that the lands around the I-5 can be protected, because as we know, the high school is very close to the I-5. So there were some problems with the language on that one. But state law is always stronger and more ironclad than any cooperative agreement among agencies. It's much more difficult to change state law than it is to undo a cooperative agreement. People change at these agencies, and it can be changed very quickly as time goes on. And I fear that could possibly happen. But we should just wait it out. Time is not of the essence here in terms of funding for this road. There's no complete funding for this road yet for the arterial route. And January 22nd, from what I hear, Senator Bates' bill will most likely be heard. And we should wait and see if the legislation passes, because I think that would be stronger for our community and protect us once and for all, and put an end to that threat of any toll road. And I see this cooperative agreement is asking us to not support those bills or withdraw our support for those bills. I think it says in section 5B on page 7, agree to request that Senator Bates withdraw 760 and 761, reserving its right to propose and support legislation in the future should TCA or Caltrans reinitiate studies, advancement, or development of freeway in and or through San Clemente. So that's problematic for me. I'd rather wait and see. We've sent letters of support for those bills, and we should see how those unfold. And then also Caltrans isn't a party to this cooperative agreement. So Caltrans, as we know, can take lands when it wants. So what's the point of a cooperative agreement over state legislation? Again, just reiterating that state legislation is always better than agreements between parties and agencies. And that said, Ms. Quintanilla spoke tonight. She wrote us today, as you all know, and she also reiterated some of the things that I had just mentioned. But most importantly, we do need to deal with that initiation of the general plan amendment for the removal of Las Patronas Parkway from the roadway system map. And we can't just pretend that hasn't been on the agenda 4 times and then really memorialize some of the historical events that our city has put time and money into that are missing from this cooperative agreement because it doesn't tell the whole story. Thanks.
Okay, so I haven't. Do you want to weigh in? I'd like
Were you
to-
going to ask the
Yeah.
city attorney on some of those? I'll delay my points
Thank
until.
you. So, city attorney, on those points, I remember the initiation of the general plan amendment being agendized only, and if we did not reach a cooperative agreement. I remember that was the purpose of it, and that's why we kept putting it off and giving the full council all the information that we didn't have one yet, and that's why we would put it off. But I remember that was the cooperative agreement isn't it makes the general plan amendment moot. We don't need to do it. We don't need to take it up. And I remember that was a condition of why we agendized.
That's what I remember, Mayor, is that this would moot the rescission of the Los Patronos Parkway line on the general.
Okay, so that's my memory of, so I don't believe we need to take anything up on that, because if we pass the cooperative agreement today, we don't need to talk about a general plan amendment. As far as agreement missing a lot, historically, any historical data, all parties, we agreed to what is in there, and we spent many months doing that. Our lawsuit isn't any part of that. It doesn't need to be mentioned. And I believe that was mentioned at the Board of Supervisors today. So who crafted it is the parties that are signing it. That is who crafted it. I'm looking at my notes.
I have a point on the bills, the legislation.
Okay, that was.
Mayor Ward,
Go ahead.
I think that was going to be my main point anyway, but as someone who spent tens of hours rallying votes for that legislation, and I can't get those hours back.
You couldn't bill.
I asked. I could what?
You couldn't bill for them either.
I couldn't bill for them either. Yeah, my partners at my firm were ecstatic about that, but it was going to be very difficult to get that legislation through as is. With any changes, we would have lost even more votes. Senator Patricia Bates was an absolute champion for San Clemente with this legislation. She put herself out at some personal risk and battled for the city. But the fact is this legislation is a long shot at best. That's just the reality on the ground. My understanding, it was spoken at the Board of Supervisors meeting today, is Senator Bates supports this cooperative agreement and feels like it does address the issues that she was trying to address with her legislation and making sure that no toll road ever goes through San Clemente. And that's pretty meaningful to me, considering the effort she put in with that legislation. I think I'd close my points too with what Mayor Pro Tem James said. The TCA vigorously fought against this agreement. They weren't trying, it wasn't gamesmanship. They wanted this thing to go down, and they did everything they could for it to get defeated at the Board of Supervisors today. Everything. Luckily, reason prevailed, and the supervisors voted to move this on and help protect San Clemente's open space. And so I know that I'm prepared to do the same, subject to any additional comments that anyone may have.
I would like to finish by saying that Senator Bates has always represented all of her constituents well, and did everything possible to elevate this. It was passed by the Senate last year unanimously. But the city having this be and arterial has always been the plan and the fight that the city took to the toll road. We said that a toll road wasn't needed. Our residents said that also. We did realize that we couldn't be against any regional mobility transportation. And as a city, we don't do that. We generally cooperate with our neighbors and with OCTA and with the master plan of arterial highways. We have a say in that. We have a greater say in that than we do as a member of the toll road agency. And that's why we are no longer a member of that toll road agency. The cooperative agreement that we already have with the ranch and the county is a good agreement. It states that this is an arterial highway. It's an agreement that they can't breach. It's a county arterial highway. It will be built to those standards. It's important to say that we already have that agreement. This is just even more agreement because we have OCTA stating that as part of the master plan of arterial highways, this is the process that we're going to go through. And San Clemente has always been good about participating in the process. We allowed Avenida, we didn't allow, but we have participated and helped pay for Avenida La Plata. And then we also connected Camino del Rio to Avenida La Plata. That was a good connection. That also connected Dana Point to be able to go down Los Mares to La Plata. We know regularly that Ladera Ranch are, some of our businesses are their businesses. They come down on that. And that's just regional mobility. Arterials are good because they carry 50% of the load. Anytime someone's on an arterial, they're not on I-5. And we appreciate OCTA and hope that they will approve this agreement. We do appreciate Supervisor Bartlett convening, this group to try to get the agreement. And we appreciate certainly what Senator Bates has tried to do with legislation. And I would just say to anyone that if you want legislation, you need to go and talk to the environmentalists and Surfrider because they are actively fighting any legislation for the city of San Clemente based on their settlement with TCA. And that's who's stopping it. So we've worked hard to try and do this. I appreciate everyone saying that. I'm just happy to have it settled what transportation will be in South County and what 3 projects are necessary. And that's all this agreement does. And it's important to do that because as of last February, TCA was already going back on their word and talking in committee meetings to come back to San Clemente. And that is after their March 2020 vote. So February of 2021, they were already going back. It hadn't even been a year. So that's how we got to this agreement. And I just would thank everyone and thank the council very much for all the work that they've done on this to try to get to this point.
Madam Mayor, may I
Yes.
suggest that you make the motion?
Oh.
Well, excuse me, before you go on, Mayor Ward, I've had my hand up. I don't think you've
All right,
seen.
didn't see it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, on August 17th, when I had seconded your motion pertaining to that general kind of amendment pertaining to Las Patronas, part of that was to have the city manager do analysis on the implications of its removal. We never got that. Okay, that could have come in the form of an email or a memo, but it never came. So are you saying, so I actually seconded you under false pretenses. I expected that analysis and so did the public. So you're not going to hold him accountable, provide that analysis. And who are you to say he doesn't have to provide it now?
Okay.
You can go back and watch that meeting.
I looked at your email on that or heard about it, and that analysis was tied to what the consequences would be of removing the general plan amendment only. It was not tied to the cooperative.
In your mind alone.
No, City Attorney, can you opine on that before we take the vote?
I guess each of you had your own considerations in supporting or opposing that motion, but we assumed, I'll speak for our office and the city managers in saying that we understood that to be a placeholder pending the outcome on this item. But that's recognizing that each of you might have had a different understanding and expectation.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. City Attorney, can I'd like to ask you then, if you feel this is so ironclad, having this cooperative agreement, then why have you, encouraged this council to appeal the decision of the judge in Riverside Court in late July?
I'm sorry, but that's not something that we're going to talk about in open session.
Yeah, at the last meeting, he announced that you'd be spending money, and I was a no vote, so was Councilmember Noblock, to talk with this appellate attorney. At the last meeting, he announced it. So
Laura, if we had anything to announce, we would be
asking the city attorney, he can't answer me. So if this is so good, why is there the need to continue to fight? Thank you.
All right. I feel like TCA is in the room. Oh, okay, I'll make the motion. This is just odd. I'll move staff recommendation that we approve and authorize the mayor to execute the South County Traffic Relief Cooperative Agreement by and between the city of San Clemente, the county of Orange, and the Orange County Transportation Authority.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Ward, second by Mayor Pro Tem James.
Councilmember Duncan,
With special thanks to Supervisor Katrina Foley and the other supervisors for getting this hard fought through the Board of Supervisors. I'm a very strong aye.
Councilmember Ferguson,
No.
Councilmember Noblock,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem James,
Aye.
and Mayor Ward.
Aye.
Carries 4-1.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, just to also give a shout out to Nicole Walsh from County Council, who was instrumental working with Scott Smith, our city attorney. And I know you've already covered the thanks to Supervisor Bartlett, but also her Deputy Chief of Staff, Yazzie Global, was also helpful in working with the city. And of course, Daryl Johnson at the OCTA. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Of course, we thank all those people.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is oral communications. The first card that I received only says oral communications. It doesn't have a name or anonymous. Could someone have forgotten to complete the rest of the card? It just says oral communications. Okay, well, let's go to the next one, see if they come. You're number 2, so.
Yeah, well, I was prepared to say something, but I have to mention this, that the rescinding of the LPPE was never contingent on a cooperative agreement. Absolutely not. It was brought on 4 times, and I have all the emails to prove it, and I've emailed every one of you to resend it. And I know you're thinking of Nicole Walsh, but she was the one that said at the December 9th Planning Commission meeting that the TCA can take over the county's interest of the Los Patrones Parkway extension. She also mentioned it at the February 16th City Council meeting. You knew and you were aware of that. Yes, this cooperative agreement only has 2 areas there where it would protect it, but it also goes against the legislations that any future, it takes away the rights of the public, and that it's only solely dependent on what Eric's son mentioned. I mean, what Mayor, sorry, I'm losing my track because I wasn't prepared for that. But anyways, you made your decision, but unfortunately, I feel like it's wrong, and I wasn't prepared to speak on that. But I have to, at the last city council meeting, I copied, I made a public comment, and Mayor Ward had to break Rosenberg's rules of order, and she mentioned something that she had to opine on, or she had to mention about the allegations that were brought forth. I originally emailed Mayor Ward and actually Mayor Pro Tem James about a email that I sent to him regarding that he was on record. He had emailed a representative, San Clemente resident, emailed him. And so he called her and he told her that he was in strong opposition to Amazon. And she posted it on social media, and she was really excited about that. And she also mentioned that there was no NDA, that it was null and void. So I emailed Mayor Pro Tem James and CC'd Mayor Ward. She responded to me, and in a couple of emails, later on, because I brought up the traffic study, the IBI group and other things. And then she emailed me back saying, I'm not going to be discussing anything about the potential project because any project in the future could come to the city council. However, anything that's in the public realm, such as what's on the website or stated by staff at a council meeting, is public. You should not be writing to me about what, if anything, another council member said. I did provide the link on our website, and I will provide it to anyone who asks for the information. Basically, she says, I request that you do not write to me any further about anything on the internet about a project. I listen to public comments that are made in official city forums. So basically, she did say, do not email her.
Is there another public comment?
There's about
Okay,
13 more.
all right, thank you.
Janet Good.
And who's after Mrs. Good?
That'll be Christy Pittman.
Madam Mayor, City Council members, thank you so much for letting me have an opportunity to address you with some concerns that I have. I'm probably going to be out of town when you're discussing this issue, so I wanted to address it now, just so I have my say. I'm very concerned about, we've had all these public meetings about parks and renovations and whatnot, and I live in Shore Cliffs and one street over from San Gregorio Park. So we saw the plans last week, and I'm concerned because there's a skate park that wants to be built there, or a skate ramp, and it's going to be put right at the best ocean view that we have in the park. There's picnic tables, there's barbecues, people are there on the weekends having birthday parties. It would just be, I think, a bad decision. And then there's a neighbor down below that has a pool, so they're always out there, and it would just be very, very noisy. I'm a little nervous. And then the other, several other things I'm really concerned about. The traffic on San Gregorio is already pretty dangerous. We have a really steep hill, and I walk my dog at the park usually 4 times a week, if not more. I have neighbors who are elderly that walk in the park every day, usually twice a day. So if you build more structures, such as 8 more pickleball courts, bringing in tons more traffic, tons more congestion. If you build a skate park, that's bringing more problems. The park is not always locked at night, so you'd have a lot of lingering kids hanging out. I love kids. I have 3 grandkids, but if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. So I'm very concerned about that as well. I'm also concerned we have a senior living facility that's just being built off of Vaquero. So Vaquero is going to be extremely busy. There's going to be tons of seniors living there, which is nice. I mean, I'm not opposed to that, but you're going to be having much more traffic. You're going to be having delivery trucks. You're going to be having employees coming in there. You're going to be having visitors coming to see the people who live there. So Vaquero is very busy already. If you have more traffic coming in on Vaquero going up that steep hill to San Gregorio, I've almost been hit about 3 times, and I'm not exaggerating, of people rushing to get their kids to baseball games, soccer games, and then rushing to get to the pickleball matches. So I'm just very concerned about not only the elderly, but just people who ride their bikes there. We walk there. I think it's a huge project that I think needs to be really looked at seriously. The danger aspect is the main one I'm concerned about, the traffic, and also just the crowds and the noise for the residents. It's a neighborhood park. It's a city park, but it's a neighborhood park. It's right in our neighborhood.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, if I may, really quick, how many people here speak about the site-specific plan as it relates to our parks master plan? So if I may, Mayor, just still allow them to speak, but to communicate where we're at and where we're going with the process. So thank you for coming, number 1. Number 2, we did convey or conduct community town halls at each of the park locations that we did the site-specific plan. We definitely heard the residents' concerns as it relates to San G, Linda Lane, et cetera. We are going to initiate one more community town hall for the public, because I know that at the San G, there were some residents who weren't able to voice their concerns or get their questions answered. So we're going to do another one to address all of those people that weren't addressed. There will be multiple stages through this process where the city council will be looking at recommendations. Everything you're telling the consultant, he will go back and modify his designs based on the public input to a degree. And that will be coming back to the council as a study session in the near futures. So the one thing I want to say is nothing is done. Nothing is going to be done. There are still other public processes where your voice will be able to be heard as we progress through these processes. You're welcome.
Madam Mayor, if I direct a question to the city manager. If any of this comes to fruition, we're talking years. We're talking at least 2.
Oh, absolutely. And the one thing is when we did our park master plan update, you know, the things that we heard the most loudest were pickleball. We heard skate park amenities. So those then translated into the site specific plans as to those were the important wants of the community. The price tag for all of these things are not within our reach, within our budget. It's a kind of a palette to start with to see what we can work with and what we can't work with. These changes would take upwards of 5 to 10 years to complete in totality. And of course, funding would be a major issue for us to also overcome with that. But there are some ideas in there that obviously I think resonate with the community and other types of things that we'll look at, but those will also be addressed and deliberated in future budget cycles as well.
In other words, this is the very initial stages of these park planning.
This is very, very, very early in the process, and there will still be a number of public forums that the community can provide their input.
I would also
Absolutely.
submit it's a pipe dream from the perspective that this is the possibilities, but we certainly don't have the funding to fulfill those possibilities.
Absolutely agree.
Okay, so we're not going to have a big discussion on that. Next item.
Okay,
Next
next
person.
will be Christy Pittman, followed by Marty Weinberg, followed by Susan DiStefano.
All right, I was one of the neighbors at the park meeting. I was invited to an on-site park open house meeting at San Gregorio Park on September 23rd to provide feedback of the first draft of future improvements to the park. I did my homework and was ready to ask questions and voice concerns about the proposed improvements. There were so many people in attendance, I was unable to ask most of my questions. The meeting was unfortunately chaotic and disorganized. The people representing the city did not take charge, nor were they knowledgeable to field questions from concerned neighbors, which were personally invited by postcard to the meeting. This meeting seemed hastily planned and was a poorly managed meeting. The only person to calm the crowd and bring order to the meeting was Aaron Washington, a park commissioner who provided attendees some direction. As I am a longtime supporter of Parks and Rec, I feel the first draft concept plan was again hastily planned and poorly designed. The impact of the neighborhood has been overlooked. The safety of the park users has been overlooked. The environmental trends for sustainability have been overlooked, and the current areas of the park, which are dysfunctional due to neglect, have been overlooked. Regarding my neighborhood, there has been no environmental analysis to address the increase of traffic and no studies of increased noise above ambient levels due to proposed park concepts. With proposed lighting of the new pickleball courts, intense activities will be occurring in the park all the way until the park closure. This is an impact which will keep park users coming and going through my neighborhood and a new volume of traffic and noise, which doesn't happen now. Also, in regards to the already inevitable new development of homes in Short Cliffs area, the traffic on Vaquero will greatly increase with the addition of 8 new pickleball courts. The increased noise, traffic, and neighborhood impacts will impact the neighborhood. Before approved, can studies be conducted to assess these impacts and propose appropriate mitigation? Can the neighborhood handle the increase of all these planned activities? Regarding safety, the new concepts are poorly placed.
parks are designed with buffer zones between activity areas, as the planners of the existing San Gregonio Park understood. These buffer zones alleviate park user conflicts. The placement of the proposed new pickleball courts. Oh, shoot. Is it over?
Yes. Thank you. We understood that you don't like the placement of the pickleball. We got that.
No.
No,
and,
we
well,
can't,
there's more.
I'm sorry, we can't go on anymore. Thank you for your comments.
Aw.
Marty Weinberg.
What?
Please step up. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Marty Weinberg. I live in San Clemente and I am the USAPA pickleball ambassador for San Clemente. I know it sounds funny, pickleball ambassador, but that's a real thing. And I guess pickleball is so popular, they need ambassadors now. So anyhow, I also I attended the parks review on Thursday at San Gregonio, and I thought it was a pretty positive meeting. We did have some concerns from some of the neighbors, and you know, San Gregonio, that's the only park we have. We love that park. We play pickleball there. It is crowded. We had about 70 of the pickleball players attend the meeting as well, and that's just a small percentage of the 500 plus pickleball players that we have in San Clemente. So we are pleased with the proposal of the 8 new courts and lights and the pickleball social hub. A quick update. Last time I was here was about a month ago, and I mentioned fundraising. I met with John Dory, and he's the president of the Friends of San Clemente Foundation, and they approved opening a bank account in their name, earmarked for pickleball for our fundraising efforts. So we opened up the account last week, and we're finalizing signature cards, ordered checks, and so we're on our way. We formed a committee, a fundraising committee. Our first meeting is Friday, and in the meantime, we've ordered 12 dozen t-shirts. The city just approved a pickleball tournament, the first for San Gregonio Park, and some of our instructors and our paddle reps have offered up lessons, paddles and pickleball gear, so we'll be raffling those off as well. And it's all good. Our courts, they are overcrowded. We need more room. We need to expand, and we're hopeful that the new courts will be built, and we're hopeful also that our fundraising efforts will help in some of the costs for the courts. And I think that's about it. Any questions? All right, I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan DiStefano, followed by Al Cullen, followed by Saul Stallion.
For allowing us to speak tonight. I also was at the meeting at the park, and it was very chaotic. But my point is, I spoke to Samantha Wiley on the phone about a month ago. It was the first that we had heard of development of the park. We have had no public notice except for last week about the development of the park. That was a postcard that was sent out by the city. Basically, my point is when I spoke to Samantha, she said there's no traffic department or engineering that has been brought to this concept plan, and that the traffic and street parking is not her problem. The other thing was also that traffic brought to this area by the Shore Cliffs Golf Course and the 150 apartment complex development is just across Vaquero, was not a traffic concern for her. She also said about that meeting that was planned for the park that it was pretty much a done deal. And this was the last opportunity for the public to speak out about their concerns. I have to ask you a question. You stated that this is a long process. You don't have a date in mind for the process to start? Is that what I'm hearing? No date? And I was told that in November, there were grants available to the city that wanted to be used. And so they were going to have to initiate something in order to make this happen. Is that true?
City
Am I-
manager, can,
Am I
just
hearing
to, because
lies?
we have so
So,
much public comment on this. Can you
This is
answer
the
that?
beginning of a very long public process
Okay.
for discussion, and there is nothing in the pipeline to approve or to build. It is all conceptual and just
Okay.
seeking public comments.
Well, the other thing is there are no continuous walkways, sidewalks in that area. And the traffic is already very heavy in that area. And if we're going to have that kind of traffic, we have to have walkways for people. For the residents in the area, Vista Torito and Access Street, which I happen to live on, and Gorgonio, and also the lower street, I don't remember the name of it, but the development was approved by the city with no complete driveways. No complete driveways when it was developed. So when you consider putting more street parking with overflow, it's impossible for the people to park. So you're going to have to make a resident concession, resident parking only. We all know what happened up at Ole Hansen Park, up at Ole Hansen School when it was set up for adults to be on that campus where the residents had absolutely no parking at all. We can't park in our driveways without encroaching the sidewalks. So it would be essential to provide parking. And I have sent you this email that Samantha has, and I'll let that be complete.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker.
Al
Al-
Cullen,
Mr.
followed by
Cullen.
Saul Stallion, followed by Donna Vidrine.
Good evening again. The proposed master plan that we have been presented of late is one of the most ill-conceived ideas that I've seen in my many years dealing with not only this city, but other cities. If it is approved as presented or anywhere close to that, there is no chance of stopping this with some future council members in approving various segments of it. This has the potential to have 176 players per hour in San Gregorio Park. My observation, unofficial, has been that most arrive singly, one single car. That's going to turn over, a certain portion that's going to turn over every hour. We have a possible wedding venue mentioned, a double dog park, removal of a significant number of mature trees, a skateboard park, a fenced off reservation area for picnics. Folks, I think the only reason this is being dumped on Shore Cliffs is because we don't have an HOA. And we are absorbing all of this, attempting to be absorbed, all of this. And you're not addressing one other neighborhood park with any of these events. This needs to be spread around. However, the most important thing is Hermosa Park is a sports park. I think we all recognize that. That is where the pickleball court should be. Vaquero is poorly designed. Buses and trucks ride in the bike lane all the time. You got a new development across the street at the golf course. And folks, this is sick, and you need to please pay attention to the neighborhoods and the people in this city. Thank you.
In the report filed by Deputy Medina on stopping Mayor Pro Tem Gene James for running a red light rather than pull over, quote, "The Ram truck abruptly slammed on his brakes, almost causing me to run into the back of the truck and the traffic behind me to slam on their brakes to avoid hitting me. Failing to, in his attempt to cause a deputy to crash, Gene James repeatedly accused the deputy of being part of a criminal conspiracy with the former chief to manufacture evidence to issue a citation.
Because you came up not stopping before you made a right-hand turn. You see the red light? Look. Of course I saw the red light. If you think I didn't stop, let's just go with that, okay? Because I know what this is about. What is this about? You're fucking wrong. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who you are. I don't know anything. All I know is you ran that red light. Give a driver's registration, please. Just next time, don't slam on your brakes in the middle of the street. Okay? Yes, you did slam on your brakes. You slammed on your brakes right before the exit of the freeway at McDonald's. You can't turn on an exit lane where there's a car standing right there. A car standing right there and come out of the driveway right here. You can't turn out of there. Why are you gonna slam the brakes here? Stop the lecture. Okay, give me your driver's license. I stopped, but I know what this is about. You did not stop, sir. I have no reason to stop you, but if you came to a complete stop like you were supposed to. I don't know what you're referring when you know. Yes, you do. I have no idea what you're talking about, sir. My phone. Okay, Clark, stop yelling. Okay, that's why I'm asking you. Okay? I don't know what you're doing on your phone because you didn't tell me what you were doing with your phone. I don't have to tell you what I'm doing. I'm asking you for your information, your insurance, and I don't know if that's what you're working on. That's why I'm asking you. That's what I'm working on. Okay, calm down. Again, I don't need you to yell at me. Okay? I'm not here to be yelled at. I'm not here to be lectured. Yeah, sure. When you almost caused an accident, I'm going to mention something to you. How did I almost cause? Because you slammed on your brakes right there at the entrance. Okay, you were moving, you slammed on your brakes. I was right behind you. You were going around me. Okay, it was my goddamn fault. Listen to me. Stop yelling at me. Can we have Sergeant Expenditure or Captain Manhart come here? No, we cannot. I'm Gene James. I'm Mayor Pro Tem of San Clemente. Can I have Sergeant Manhart? Not right now, sir. I need your proof of insurance, please.
Okay, when Gene James couldn't bully and intimidate the deputy with just his truck and language, he used his title as Mayor Pro Tem to demand the chief appear to intervene. Even after being caught on tape, Gene James now wants us to join him in smearing the sheriff's department and accept that they are committing more felonies, more criminal conspiracies against him.
Okay,
Cool.
thank you.
Gene James' behavior is that of a clinical sociopath. He needs to resign immediately, or the
Thank
council
you.
needs to take action. to
Your
isolate
comments
him
are
and
over.
strip him of any power.
Thank you very much. Next
Donna
speaker.
Vidrine, followed by Don Kunze, followed by Glenn Froelich.
I would like to applaud City Council members in Santa Ana last week in passing a sweeping climate resolution. City Council approved a plan that joins other cities in Orange County in committing to 100% renewable energy usage by 2045. These OC cities are working together on curbing greenhouse gas emission. San Clemente can work to develop a climate action plan. We have seen firsthand how unprepared we are when dealing with these crises: beach erosion and high tides with increasing sea levels, which are interrupting train service and breaching coastal houses and neighborhoods. An action plan addressing these problems will make it easier to get state and federal grants to protect our neighborhoods, railways, and beaches. Our state and federal governments have committed significant funding to address climate change, totaling billions of dollars. The first of 5 ocean-related bills was signed last week. Senate Bill 1 formally adds rising seas to the list of issues to be addressed by the Coastal Commission. Senate Bill 1 coordinates sea adoption efforts and prepares the way to provide up to $100 billion a year in grants for local and regional governments to prepare for higher waters. I propose that this council reestablish a coastal advisory committee to study and make recommendations to include sea level rise, beach erosion, and ocean water quality issues. If not a coastal advisory committee, a climate change advisory committee. Solutions to climate change include keeping fossil fuels in the ground. We cannot afford more carbon dioxide or methane in the atmosphere. Invest in renewable energies, wind, solar, and hydropower. Utilize sand trapping and mining in local streams only for beach sand replenishment. So we reestablish our natural beach and sand supply. Reduce one-time use plastics and reestablish effective recycling of bottles. Protect our oceans. They are absorbing carbon dioxide and becoming acidic, which imperils many of its organisms. Protecting oceans and the life in them is ultimately a way to protect ourselves from ocean change. We need a collective act of science and political will. Our security and prosperity are interconnected with climate change as never before. Thank you for your attention tonight.
Don Kunze,
I don't believe he's here anymore.
Glenn Froelich, followed by Martina, no last name, followed by anonymous relating to a newspaper article.
First, I want to thank all the city council members for their hard work. As we all know, it's pretty hard to walk out of here without half of the people disagreeing with what you have to say. And that's just our political climate at the time. The reason I'm up here, I was asleep at the switch and I didn't pay attention when you guys were talking about the gas blower ban for San Clemente. I've spent my entire adult life cleaning San Clemente. And that includes pro bono projects for the city. And quite a few of my clients, we use the gas blowers to clean their parking lots. And over the years, it's turned from picking up leaves and scraps of paper to needles, human feces, condoms, and a lot of other unmentionable trash. If we weren't doing these jobs, this debris would be going straight into our ocean. And I don't think the council's fully looked at the ramifications of private cleaning versus the public cleaning that the street sweeping's doing. These businesses are helping keeping this stuff out of our beaches and out of our sewers. And we can't do that job properly because the electric blowers that are out just don't have the technology to do it. It's like driving your Tesla to Las Vegas. It's just not going to make it there. So rather than put our thumbs on the scale and impact some of the hardest and lowest paid workers here in our city that have for years dedicated themselves to keeping this place clean, I think we might want to take a step back and maybe have some informational meetings, because I'm not saying people don't use the blowers wrong. It happens all the time. And I'm always coaching my guys. Don't run them so hard. Don't run them so fast. I've worked 15 years with MoDOC on water saving conservation. And I've worked with the AQMD on replacing our blowers every year for quieter, more efficient models. So it's not that that's something that we're willfully doing. It's that the technology just doesn't exist yet. And I think you're moving a little too quick to put your thumb on the scale and hurt these good folks. I mean, folks like me, we're going to finish our shift and we'll probably be able to buy tools, and we're just pass the cost on to our clients, quite honestly. But a lot of folks are just going to hose down their driveways and they're going to let that trash go into the gutter. And we're going to defeat the purpose that we've all been working on for a number of years. So I just think that should be considered, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Martina. Okay. The next one is anonymous concerning newspaper article.
Thank you all for your time. I was on my couch reading a newspaper article. It was interesting. Some might find it humorous about a sheriff's deputy and one of the city council people or mayor here in San Clemente. And as I'm reading it, it occurs to me, I've been pulled over with the Orange County Sheriff's Department, given a ticket, citation, whatever. And they say license and registration. Sure, here you go, sir. No problem. And they ran my citation. But I may not agree with it. I may not have actually done what they say I did, or maybe they saw it wrong. I don't know. But that's just my obligation. They're doing their job. I'm living my life, and we go our separate ways. But I'm a level-headed, normal, non-psychopath. As I'm reading the article, I listened to the little video clip that's in there. It's actually not a video, it's an audio clip of the individual that's screaming at the police officer, cussing at the police officer. Sir, you ran a red light. No, I didn't. Did you see the red light? Yes, I did see the red light. Well, how do you not run a red light and you see a red light? It doesn't make any sense. And then as I'm reading through the article, I just look at the officer's side, I look at the other person's side, and I'm beginning to see a picture draw out. Call your superior, bring him down here. Who does that? Honestly, what type of a person is going to tell a police officer, get your superior down here right now? And then I started reading the officer's report, and I started listening to the officer and the things that he was saying, the words that he was using. They're all very rational. He raised his voice to kind of match the other individual to make sure that he kind of maintained control of the situation. I think you're trained to do those kind of things. It seemed like a smart thing to do. But none of that's going to get me off the couch. None of that's going to get me off the couch to come down to here and talk in front of all you folks. Okay. What really got me to get off of the couch is I'm a motorcycle rider, and it's very dangerous out there. Let me just tell you something. Traffic, people, cell phones, it's insanity. So right off the bat, it's a very difficult situation. Now, when I read the officer's report, it said very clearly that he is a motorcycle deputy. That means the person that brake checked that deputy officer brake checked a motorcycle. Now I can understand. Well, no, I can't understand because I'm not. But if you're driving a car and someone brake checks you and you slide into them because you missed the board or you accidentally hit the accelerator pedal, okay, bumps, bruises, you'll probably go home either in your car or somebody will pick you up and take you home. If somebody brake checks you on a motorcycle and you miss the brake pedal, you're going up and over, and you have two places you're going to end up. It's either going to be the hospital or the morgue. Anybody who would do something like that should not have authority over anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments?
There's one reading request,
Okay.
What's the request?
an accommodation.
Oh.
This is from Sharon Williams. A few weeks ago, an audio recording surfaced of San Clemente Mayor Pro Tem's confrontational reaction towards an Orange County Sheriff's deputy during a traffic stop. As of today, I have not seen the city issue any apology for the way our city representative confronted a deputy. In addition to the accusatory and defensive nature of our Mayor Pro Tem, the written report reveals our city representative also slammed on their brakes in front of the deputy who was behind them on a motorcycle. My father was the sheriff's deputy here in Southern California after he served as a U.S. Marine. He was an avid motorcycle rider who passed that love of motorcycles down to me. One of the most dangerous and life-threatening elements on the road for motorcyclists are careless motorists. Learning that a person in leadership in the city I grew up in was not only confrontational to a deputy doing his job, but also put the deputy's life in danger is deeply saddening and concerning. While it's a very bold move to accuse the sheriff's department of a conspiracy against oneself, it really doesn't matter if there are politics behind San Clemente Mayor Pro Tem being pulled over or not. In fact, the actual infraction of a California stop is not a big deal either. We've all done that. The real issue here is the reckless and ego-driven reaction and the poor display of city leadership. Tonight, I am requesting that council immediately move to issue a letter of apology on behalf of the city of San Clemente for the poor behavior of our Mayor Pro Tem. In addition, the letter should inform against anyone interacting with members of our sheriff department in the manner displayed on the recording and written report. Continued silence on this matter is deafening. So I'll just give one more call out for that one card with no name, oral communications. I believe we're done.
Okay, so council, I'll entertain a motion
Yeah,
to adjourn.
regarding that, the comments about that motorcycle stop. Gene, did you have any comments that you wanted to make?
I don't think it's appropriate to
Well,
ask that. I don't think, it's, we're
is.
not in council comments.
know-
It's not agendized. It's not appropriate. Thank you.
Okay, regarding council comments, if I might. Several
No,
weeks.
it's not. Those aren't agendized for this. This is a special meeting. That's why I'm saying that. We don't have it on the agenda to do that.
Point of order,
It's
a council member can speak anytime they'd like at the end of a meeting and even ask to place something on an agenda. You can ask the city
Well,
attorney. You
this
can ask the
is
city
special-
attorney. That's the rule.
Laura, let's get the city attorney to opine on that. Thank
I'm
you.
asking him.
Laura, please stop.
No, you stop. I'm asking him. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor and Council, for the chance to give this input. The council members may always make a brief statement in response to a public comment or ask for clarification from staff. So those two options are available to you. And then a discussion about a future agenda item is always in order under the Brown Act. So either of those opportunities are available.
I'd like to make a brief comment. I saw the newspaper article and the video a week or so ago, about 2 weeks ago, maybe. And the article appeared to be a cut and paste. I couldn't quite get the sense of the traffic stop. I got an entire 11-minute version, which I did listen to. And I have to say, the comments were totally inappropriate. The comments to the officer were effing twice, GD twice, name calling once, yelling 6 times, being told by the officer to stop yelling, and then a potential abuse of authority by ordering the deputy to bring the captain, the sergeant down. The comments that I heard were totally inappropriate. They demonstrate disrespect for police personnel and the performance of their duties. And with what the police have had to go through in the last year and a half across the country, we don't need our police officers being yelled at, cursed, or accused of nefarious criminal motives. Mayor Pro Tem's actions reflect poorly on this body, on the community at large, and especially on our young people who we train to show courtesy and respect for our police officers. San Clemente is better than that. I don't believe.
You
it's-
need to wrap
I
it up
don't
because
believe
that's
it's- I
not,
don't
that's
believe
more,
it's-
that's a
I
statement.
don't believe that it's fitting for someone with this attitude and lack of decorum to serve in one of our city's highest positions. So sadly and regrettably, I move that we place on the next agenda meeting, on our next meeting's agenda, an item to remove Mr. James as Mayor Pro Tem.
Second.
So when you place something on the agenda, when it comes back to the council on the agenda, that's where you make your comments, not beforehand. You should have just asked for it to be agendized.
Well,
I'm just saying for courtesy. you
You're
may-
out of line, Mayor Ward.
So there's a motion and a second to agendize an item. We don't need a vote on that. Is there any other comment? Because I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Oh, Mayor, before you do, just housekeeping on closed session report. That wasn't listed as a separate item. Can I take that opportunity
Yes,
now?
thank
Thank you. As was announced earlier, the Councilmember Ferguson recused herself from the discussion of item A2, Laura Ferguson versus San Clemente. As regarding item A1, San Clemente versus Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor, the council voted to instruct to request the filing of a notice of appeal in that case, and for us to file a motion seeking reimbursement of the city's attorney's fees as a prevailing party under a catalyst theory in the existing trial court case. The motion was made by Councilmember Duncan, seconded by Councilmember Noblock, and passed 4-1 with Councilmember Ferguson voting no. That's my report. Thanks.
Thank you. City Manager, do you have any comment?
No, I do not.
Okay, so there's a motion to adjourn. I believe that's to the next regular council meeting on October 5th. Closed session will be at 5 and the meeting will commence at 6 p.m. It will be at 100 Cali Seville, the Community Center Auditorium. Is there a second?
So, are you making the
You
motion
made
or
the
is it?
motion. I just read it.
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Duncan.
And who made the motion?
No, actually, the Mayor Pro Tem did. I just wanted to clarify the details.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see. Councilmember Duncan.
Aye.
Councilmember Ferguson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noblock.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem James.
Aye.
And Mayor Ward.
Aye.
Carries 5-0.
All right. Thank you.